You could argue that the best part of gaming is the opportunity to test a multitude of skills within a single game. Whether it be driving, shooting, stealth, or building, video games can make players switch from one to the other, either for gameplay purposes or just to give players a break from the main game. Now, we here at RacingGames do enjoy more than just racing games. It can be nice to just kick back and play an RPG, or even a boots on the ground FPS. Sometimes developers like to throw in a surprise or two though, like, I don't know, a sudden racing section for example. I'm Mark from RacingGames, and here are my picks for the 5 best racing sections in non-racing games. Now, to be clear, I'm talking about games where racing is not the main focus, so we won't be seeing any Forzas, Gran Turismos, Need for Speeds, or any other car-centric game series. I do bend the rules just a little on that last point though, but let's save that until the end of the video. Okay, let's get to it. We're starting off our list with a blast from the past. Released back in 1998, Crash Bandicoot 3 Warped was, funnily enough, the third entry in the Antipodean Orange Fuzzball's first trilogy. Along with the usual platforming and boulder evading was a new game mode, Racing. Now, these races were pretty straightforward. Start at the back, race to the front, and avoid hitting any obstacles or falling down any holes. Although only a small part of the game, these races were needed in order to complete the game, and were actually a refreshing change of pace compared to the rest of the game. Even when the game was remastered in 2017 as part of the Insane trilogy, the racing remained, and is still a largely enjoyed part of the game. You can tell developers Naughty Dog also enjoyed the racing aspect, as only a year later they created Crash Team Racing. Just like the original trilogy, this has also been remastered into Crash Team Racing Nitro Fueled, and is considered a genuine contender for Mario Kart's racing crown. If that wasn't enough, Naughty Dog also brought racing into the Jak and Daxter series, with minigame races in the main series inspiring a spin-off racing game just like Crash. From one perfect trilogy to another, Ratchet Clank was a breath of fresh air when it first launched in 2002, with racing in the series right from the first game. However, the entry on our list is from Ratchet Clank 2 Going Commando. As well as the funny innuendo name, the game also took racing to the next level by putting Ratchet on a hoverbike and including evolving tracks. Depending on the difficulty level chosen, additional shortcuts and weapons would become available, as well as the AI of your opponents also becoming more difficult to race against. Oh, and the AI takes the shortcuts too, so just be prepared for that. Just like with Crash Bandicoot and Jak and Daxter, Ratchet & Clank's racing features were inherited from the original Spyro the Dragon trilogy. I'm definitely spotting a trend of developers carrying features from one franchise over to another. The hoverbike races are a nice change to the running and gunning that you'd usually find in a Ratchet & Clank game, and the evolving tracks are a totally unnecessary but awesome bonus feature. Before we move on, have you subscribed to RacingGames yet? Just one click and you're on the RacingGames grid. Oh, and hit that notification bell too so you never miss an upload. Alright, on with the video. Another game on this list that has recently been remastered for a new generation of gamers. Released in 1997, Final Fantasy VII is regarded as a landmark game and as one of the most influential and greatest video games ever made. What it's not necessarily known for is its racing. Final Fantasy VII has a very well implemented racing feature, including the insanely cute chocobos. Unlike Crash Bandicoot and Ratchet & Clank, Final Fantasy VII allows the player to provide their own racing chocobos. The racing changes as the game progresses too, starting with Cloud being given a chocobo to race on, before eventually being able to breed and enter his own once the required areas of the game are unlocked. Players can also bet on races in order to acquire GP and additional items. Breeding chocobos is useful for the racing, but it's also needed to explore additional sections of the game's map, blending the racing nicely into the rest of the game. And just like Crash and Jak, the chocobos even got their own racing spin-off game with Chocobo Racing released in 1999. This game even got a sequel, with Chocobo GP released just this year. Sadly, we're not talking about pod racing today, but I definitely want to come back to that in a later video, as who doesn't love pod racing? Nope, today we're taking a look at Star Wars Rogue Squadron 2 Rogue Leader, a game with a title nearly as long as the game itself. Spanning the entire original trilogy, Rogue Leader sees the player taking on the role of either Luke Skywalker himself or Wedge Antilles, as they lead the rebel forces against the Galactic Empire. Now, whilst not a race in the conventional sense, the Beggar's Canyon level tasks you with flying your T-16 Skyhopper through the level as quickly as possible in order to reach your objective. So this one might be a stretch, but I consider it a race, and it's Star Wars. How can you ever leave out Star Wars? I'd also include the trench run from A New Hope too, if I could, just to squeeze that into this video. We'd probably get a copyright strike though if I used footage of that, so let's just move on. Okay, so this is the rule breaker I mentioned at the top of the video, but hear me out here. Grand Theft Auto is not a racing series. Sure, each game in the series does include racing, but if you add it all up, it's still only a small part of the overall franchise. In truth, the series is more about gunplay than racing, with each new entry including more and more missions that barely involve vehicles at all, besides as a means to travel between shootouts of course. Now I've included the full series here, but the games I want to talk about specifically are GTA 4 and GTA 5. GTA 4 was the first to include full multiplayer, with racing lobbies being one of the more popular online game modes. My personal favourite were the point-to-point races, where you start with nothing but yourself and your rivals, and have to race to a point on the other side of the map. This allowed players to get creative, with the first to grab a car not necessarily the first to finish. This was true freedom racing, with the only objective to be the first to cross the line. How you did that was your choice entirely. I'd have loved this game mode to have been included in GTA 5, but so far that's not happened sadly. The GTA series also includes GTA Races, which is basically a normal race but with weapons enabled. Think Mario Kart, but with more violence and explosions. GTA 5 has taken racing to a whole new level, with more tracks, vehicle classes and even race modes than ever seen before. In recent updates, open wheel racing has also been added, allowing players to race in cars similar to, but not quite like Formula 1 cars. This includes using a speed boost similar to ERS, taking damage when hitting the walls, and needing to pit to change tyres and fixing any damage picked up. Pretty cool, right? One thing's for sure, if you're looking for a niche racing series to take part in, look no further than Grand Theft Auto. So that's our list. Have we missed any of your favourites? Are there any other lists like this you'd like us to cover? And how do you feel riding a massive chicken around a racetrack? Let us know in the comments below. For now though, thanks for watching. I've been Mark from RacingGames. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and now I'm off to fix up the hoverbike ready for another race on Ratchet Clank 2. I need to buy the Rhino too, and bolts don't just grow on trees, you know.